Some huge news broke last night that I have to share with you guys. The New York Attorney General's office said that the Trump organization is no longer under just a civil investigation. It's now under a criminal investigation. So the Attorney General's office is now working with the Manhattan District Attorney's office. They've been investigating the Trump organization for bank fraud, tax fraud, and insurance fraud. Told you guys that this stuff was going to happen when it comes to Trump. So the New York Attorney General is Letitia James. And she's been tough. She's went after the NRA ruthlessly, and she's been very effective. And it was in 2019 that she announced that they were investigating the Trump organization's finances. So her office filed a lawsuit last August to compel the organization to comply with subpoenas for an investigation into whether former President Trump and his company improperly inflated the value of its assets on financial statements. I'm going to come back to that in a second. Fabian Levy, a spokesperson for Letitia James, said, quote, "We are now actively investigating the Trump organization in a criminal capacity along with the Manhattan DA." And then Axios reached out to the Trump organization and they haven't responded. So here's what we know based on previous reporting. We know that Trump always inflates the value of his assets on financial statements when he's trying to sound like he's really rich or when he's trying to sell some sort of property. And then what he does when it comes time to pay taxes is he wildly undervalues his assets. So he has a smaller tax bill. His problem is that he's been doing this for so long and he hasn't been thinking about the consequences of that. He doesn't understand that that's illegal, and if you get caught, that's a big problem. We also know from really good investigative reporting that he inherited so much money from his family, from his dad, and the way in which they did that was actually illegal. So there's a process you have to go through. And, I think his father would have had to pay the estate tax. They found a way to shuffle the money around in a number of ways where they were basically doing it illegally so Trump and the other kids could get more money. We know specifics on what's been going on with Trump in terms of his taxes, and he set up like shell companies for Ivanka. He paid Ivanka for certain things that she didn't actually carry out, and it was just this ruse, again, in order to save money. They've been questionable with campaign funds. We've seen what they did when he lost the election, and then he was doing fundraising emails saying, we're going to overturn the election, we're going to fight it, we're going to make sure we win. And they had like 60 court cases, lost nearly every single one. But beyond that, if you read the fine print of the fundraising they were doing, they were basically saying you have to donate over, whatever the number was, thousands of dollars in order for any of the money to actually go towards the actual court cases themselves. So in other words, the rest of the money, where was it going? It was coming in, paying off campaign debt, maybe going into their own bank accounts. Just a lot of very sketchy, questionable things. We know that Trump previously has worked with the mafia. You couldn't be a builder in New York, you couldn't be a real estate person in New York in the 1980s and 1990s and not have mafia connections. And he had the same lawyer that was the lawyer for other mob people. Now listen, everybody knows I'm not the conspiracy type. In fact, I was ruthlessly against Russiagate because Russiagate was bullshit. And I told you that from the very beginning. What's not bullshit is that Trump is corrupt, his cronies are corrupt, and his business practices are definitely illegal. He's done so many illegal things. There's accusations of money laundering at his Panama hotel. There's just so many things that can come back at him. Now, again, I told you Russiagate was bullshit, and I was right. Mueller got Dickie McGee's axe for anything in regards to Russia. But I also told you, if they investigate his businesses, they're going to find something. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Now, what will the consequences be? I have no idea. I have none whatsoever. And I'm sure the bar is incredibly high. He's a former president of the United States. As much as that's not supposed to matter, it's going to matter. And so, he'll have the best lawyers, and the charges have to be airtight, and they have to have a lot of proof. But listen, without a doubt, he's done some questionable ass shit He's done some sketchy shit. He's almost certainly done illegal shit. And so he didn't go down for anything while in office that he should have gone down for, like, for example, the emoluments clause of the Constitution. He was taking money from Saudi Arabia through his hotel as he was giving them multi-billion-dollar weapons deals. That's insane. Of course that shouldn't be allowed. Jimmy Carter had to sell his fucking peanut farm because there were concerns that some foreign governments can funnel in money through there. Never happened, but they were concerned about that. He had to sell his peanut farm. Trump got to keep his businesses and take money from Saudi Arabia and do favors for them. Jared Kushner taking money from Israel and Trump doing favors for them. Corruption through and through. He didn't go down for anything while in office in regards to emoluments or corruption. Now is a different story. And there is no pardon in this situation. There is no pardon because it's a state crime and not a federal crime. And if he goes down on state crime, so there you have it. I mean, I actually think he's in trouble. I do. I don't think this is like the other things that, were like more fake scandals. I think this is real. I think this is real. And the more you learn about Trump's business history, the more you realize there's so much stuff going on that's clearly questionable at the surface. I'll give you one more example. His golf courses. Did you know he owns like 6 or something like that? Every single one of them loses millions of dollars every single year. They've never been profitable. Not once. Not once. None of them. None of them have been profitable. How do you lose money every single year, but you stay in business? How does that happen? Clearly, you're not a good business person. A business person would make money on it. Well, again, the speculation is it's not really about the golf courses. It's really a front for something else. Maybe money laundering. And again, I hope they're looking into all of this stuff because where there's smoke, there's fire. And there's definitely a hell of a lot of smoke. So I think there's definitely a lot of fire. Look out, man. Look out. He was able to evade, accountability for the longest time. Can that continue? Listen, it's very possible. I don't want to get everybody's hopes up too much, but I think this is very, very real as opposed to a lot of the other things they went after him for, which I told you at the time, I think it was pretty weak. Whether it's the Russiagate stuff, the Mueller probe, even the impeachment over the Ukraine phone call, even that, I was like, this isn't the right thing to impeach him over if you're going to impeach him. But now we have something that seems very real and there might actually be consequences. And remember, he also was the guy who had to pay out money because he committed fraud. The whole Trump University thing. People forget. He had to pay money to the victims because the courts found, yeah, you sort of committed fraud. You got to pay him. Or maybe he settled and paid them so that he could say, I didn't commit fraud. That might have been terms of the deal of him paying them. But the reason he paid them is because it was fraudulent. He said he had a university, he didn't have a university. He's gone his other businesses have gone bankrupt at least 6 different times. There's a lot of sketchy stuff. He's in over his head, that's for damn sure.